Hello and welcome to this lesson all about the bone tools. I want to introduce you to most of the bone tools that you're going to use. I've done my best to try and include them all in this one video for a couple of reasons. Mainly, if you forget anything, you can always come back to this video rather than trying to find that one thing that I did in 6 hours of the whole course and trying to scrub through and finding that it's going to be nigh on impossible. So I'm trying to collate all of the tools in the one video to help you out. Plus, I also want to point out what tools that you use and what tools aren't really that useful. I do also want you to take a few notes during this. You might want to write down on a piece of paper or digital paper, however you prefer, because at the end of this lesson, you're going to do your first exercise where you practice all these tools. It's really low stakes. There are no wrong ways of doing it, but I'm trying to force you to use the tools and then get that information in your head. And in the past, we've had a lot of comments about people thinking that this was a silly idea, but then when they did it, they're like, oh, it's actually really quite good because it's encoding that information in my brain. Plus, it was really easy. So you're going to do the same. Without further ado, let's get stuck into learning these bone tools. And I'm even going to throw in a bunch of tips for you. All right, let's go. The first thing I'm going to mention is adding things to your quick favorites. If there's an option you use quite a lot, you're going to save yourself a lot of time by adding it to your quick favorites. For example, when you're starting out, you probably want to see the names of the bones and the axes. So just right click and then choose add to quick favorites. Of course, I can't add to my quick favorites because I already have. But then you can hit Q inside the viewport. Then you can turn on and off the bone names and axes whenever you like. Next, it's really important to remember how to parent. So I've selected these 3 bones here. Who's your daddy? I am, Control P, keep offset. So shift select all your children, then the parent last. Let's talk about some of the bone tools over here. We have our roll tool. When we click this one, you can see we can click on our bone and then roll it around. Although that's not as quick as using the hotkey Control R. Now, one other tool we've got for the bone roll is recalculating the bone roll. This is the same shortcut as recalculating the normals on your mesh with Shift N, and then you get this menu up here. You can see we have the positive axes, the negative axes, and then some other axes. Say if I wanted to align the Z axis of our bone to the global positive Z, I can choose that one there. Then our bone is pointing straight up. So that is Shift N, and you've got some very handy options in there. The next tool is the bone size here. But if we hold down when we click on this, you can see that there are 2 tools inside this little drop down. You can tell that there's multiple tools because of the little triangle icon in the corner. I did want to point that out, but these tools are used for the envelope weights. The bone size tool lets you scale the radius of the head and the tail, and the bone envelope lets you scale the whole size of that envelope fall off. You also need to be in envelope display mode to be able to see what these tools do. But as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, envelope weights aren't as precise as using vertex groups. So these are tools that you're not going to find yourself using very often, if at all. Next up, under our extrude options here, we have extrude and extrude to cursor. First, I'll show you the extrude tool. When we click on the tail of the bone, this one will let us extrude in the same direction as that existing bone. And the roll is going to be the same as well. That's a really handy tool for when we want to extrude a bone that is automatically aligned with what we're extruding from. You can use the shortcut to extrude with any tail selected. You can just hit E, and that's going to let you drag out a bone. It is not automatically aligned to the bone that we have extruded it from. But this is really handy when we want to create bones quickly. We can just hit E like that. Another way is by extruding to the cursor. I'll show you the tool in just a second, but the shortcut is just by holding the Control key and then clicking. This will be right click by default, but because I've switched my left and my right clicking, it's a left click for me. This lets you do that same thing just by Control clicking. That option is also in here. So when we have that tool selected, now I can just click without holding down Control. And our final tool is this shear tool. Then we get this little widget where we can actually shear our bone on any of these axes. But to tell you the truth, this one I've never used, and it's just a little bit difficult to manipulate. I think it's handier just to be able to position your bone just by grabbing the tail and the head and positioning it where you need it to be. You often find yourself needing to switch the direction of our bone. You can do that by hitting Alt F, and that'll flip the tail and the head around. But you notice that it disconnected the parent, and that's because it needs to do that operation. If you do need to flip a bone, then you just need to reparent it again. You can duplicate a bone. just by hitting Shift D, it automatically jumps into the move operator as well. Although if you do Shift D and you want it to be in exactly the same spot, you can just cancel the movement by right clicking and it's going to jump back to where it was. Now I have 2 bones in the same location. You can control the visual size of the bone as long as you're in B-bone mode with Control Shift Alt S, and then you can just scale it up bigger. This is very handy when you have 2 bones sitting over the top of each other and it makes it very difficult to select them. Although if you hold down Alt when you select, that will bring up a selection menu for what's underneath your mouse. And this is very handy when you've got lots of bones in the same spot. Or alternatively, scale your bones to make them easily selectable. If you need to make lots of bones in a chain, it's easier to create one bone and then subdivide it. You just need to select your bone. Up here in the menu, you have subdivide, or you can activate the shortcut. For me, it is W, but it will be right click if you're on the default settings. Then we can choose subdivide here. And in the redo panel, we can actually tell Blender how many cuts that we want. Let's just raise this up. You can see our bone is being subdivided. It has a soft limit of 10, but we can click in here and make it higher if we want. Let's just subdivide this 20 times. So that will give us 20 cuts or 21 bones. Let's just bring that down again. 5 cuts will give us 6 bones. So this is a connected chain. They are all the same length and they have the same role. There's a few different ways we can delete bones. We can just select one and hit X, and then we can delete the entire bone or dissolve the bone. Here, I'll just delete the bone and you'll see it deletes that, but keeps the connection between these bones, or the parenting rather. It's not a connected parent. You can actually dissolve a bone and it's going to dissolve whatever we have selected around it. So if I have just one head selected, although I'll change over to octahedral to make it easier to select that. If I dissolve these bones with just this part selected, it's going to connect bone 003 and bone 002. But if I have both of these selected, so I have the head and the tail, it's going to dissolve the surrounding bones. So let me just show you this one here. I will dissolve this one. It's turned those 2 bones into one. And if I select this whole entire one, it will dissolve those 2 bones around it into one. You can rename any bone by hitting F2 inside the viewport and then give it a new name. And that works the same in edit mode or pose mode. You can also bring up the batch renaming by hitting Control F2. And then if you change this over to be bones, then you can do a whole bunch of functions on whatever you have selected. So if you wanted to create a bone between this gap here, you can select that gap and then hit F to fill, and that will create a new bone. It'll be connected to the tail here, but it's just going to extend that end of the bone or the tail of the bone to the head of the other bone. There's some bone settings that you want to have quick access to, especially the deform option. You can bring that up in a menu by pressing Shift W. This menu is also available up in the armature menu, but it's easier to remember the shortcut, Shift W. You won't need to use a lot of these options, but it is handy to have this deform option quickly accessible. If you choose this one here, then you can open up the redo panel and force all the bones that you have selected to change in the way that you want. The default option is to toggle, but if you want to force them to be on or off, you can do that with this setting here. And this is a really fast way of setting that value. Another way of doing that is by selecting all your bones and then holding down the Alt key when you click the deform option, and that's going to change that setting for all of the bones that you have selected. I'll also mention briefly that you can create bone collections just by hitting M for move collection. Then we can move it to an existing collection or create a new one. And if you hold down Shift M, you can add it to an existing collection. But I've gone through bone collections in a whole separate video. Often we want bones to be aligned with other bones that we've already created. We can do that in a very similar fashion to the way that we parent. First, we want to select all of the bones that we want to align to something else. And then we want to select the bone that we want to align it to and make sure that's selected last. Then up here in our menu, we have Armature Transform, and we actually have this Align Bones option, but you can see the shortcut is Control-Alt-A. So I will use that, Control-Alt-A. You'll notice that all of our bones have been aligned with our active bone there, or the one that we selected last. And it won't change the length of the bones. So here we had that chain maintained the bone lengths. It's just aligned them with our target bone here. Snapping bones to a specific location is something that we need to do quite often, and there's many ways to achieve that goal. Let's just say I want this chain of bones to be snapped to the head of this bone here. I can select them all, and then up here in our snapping menu, I can click this open, by default is set to increment, but we can choose vertex, and that will see the head and the tail of a bone as a vertex. So once I've changed that over to vertex, I can enable snapping by clicking this button here. That means snapping is enabled, but I can just activate the move tool, G, and then if I hold down control, that is the same as turning that one on. So activate your tool and then hold down control. Often you might find it's snapping to the wrong spot. So what you can do is just position it close and then try again with your cursor near where you want it to snap. I'll position my cursor near that head and boom. Sometimes it might take 2 goes to get it right. Another way of snapping is with the snapping menu, that is Shift S, and we've got many options to choose from here. Let's say I want to snap this bone down to the cursor. Let's go Shift S, selection to cursor, boom, and we've moved it there. Another handy way of snapping is by snapping to either the face or the volume of another mesh. I just choose volume here. And now when I select this bone and I activate my snapping with the control key, I can position this anywhere. I'll just position this here. And if we toggle around, you notice it's snapping to the middle of that volume. If I wanted to snap it to the surface, I can choose face. And let's do that again. I'll hold down control and you'll see it has snapped to the face of that mesh. You can also snap to the edges of a model. There's many different things that you can choose from, and I will show you this in action later in the course when we actually rig up some meshes for real. And that's it for this lesson. Now it's time for you to experiment. Your first exercise in this course is going to be to practice all the tools you've seen in this lesson, as well as anything else you've seen in the course so far. Subdivide your bones, roll them, move them, scale them, switch them, flip them, reverse them, change the display mode, align them, delete them, parent them, unparent them, do whatever you want. I want you to practice everything and see if it works the way that you expect. If it doesn't, try and figure out why and get used to how it actually works. But most importantly, also try and practice the hotkeys as well. This is going to save you a bunch of time because you won't need to go searching for the specific tool. You can just press the button and keep moving forward. These tools are going to be your friend, so learn to use them or they will use you. And as for the exercise, all I want you to do is prove to me that you have practiced all the tools and just create a beautiful monstrosity. Try everything out, see if you can break it. If you do, try and fix it. This is a low stakes exercise and there's no wrong way of doing it. It's a little bit of free play. You're not trying to create anything specific, but if you do, hey, that's great. What have I created here? Maybe a turtle dog? Yeah, a turtle dog that's doing a poo. Oh dear. But anyway, I look forward to seeing your beautiful monstrosities.